Insane proportions are something yaois have been fluent in since the dawn of ages. Massive hands, massive shoulders, hell, some other genre series participate without knowing. But this series that has been poking around since 2020, Titan's Bride, is what if we make that our entire personality and we're just gonna take this random high school student in a weird scenario, abuse the fuck out of him, and make him marry a whole giant. Its whole stitch is if an oversized giant is fucking a small young human. This series is fucking terrible. You could say it's a giant shit. Goo assault, grape, threatening Mpreg, the mother getting involved, insane size differences. But it possessed something I've never crossed with BL before. It is a goddamn isekai, a really popular genre that I actually wouldn't have minded in BL because I've never read one. I've even actually wished for something like that type of genre mix, like a BL and an isekai, but not this series, not Titan's Bride, not Titan's Bride at all. Koichi is a high school student, and before I went any further with the story, I looked up on the wiki page the age of him, and he is either 18 or 19. If I were 19 in high school, I would actually be pretty fucking embarrassed, but the fact I had to verify something, we're at problem 1 already. You could have just simply written him as a college student at that point. He's written to be popular, a basketball player, captain of the club, a senior, everybody loves him, and even the characters, his own friends, pants him. Okay, sure. Dreams of going to college. Point is, he has a life, and when he returns home after a long day, this is a very unique situation. He thinks of a girl he's been crushing on and wants to ask her out. Instead of anything forward in that way, we go somewhere else. The character is just jacking off to her, but a voice calls out to him as he's doing it, calling him his wife. And when I think of an isekai, most of the time the main character dies and they're like transported or something around that sort. So I think this is a pretty out of the box thing. He's transported in front of a giant and he's surprised, not because he's a giant. It's because he's fucking black. I'm not sure what went through the author's head writing that. Before even saying a word to him, this giant grabs out for his piece and calls him a cute tiny fruit thing, whatever the he said. One of the many instances, dare I say, pushing this barely legal image to the test, House declares the summoning ceremony a success, and this man is fated to be his wife and to bear his children. And before Koichi is even able to utter a sentence, he's taken to a private room and is told House, being the prince of the world, he must find a wife or great disaster will overcome this world by a man in a robe that could only be described as a malnourished Xan. House had an initial wife, but it didn't follow what they wanted, so in response, this is why Koichi appeared. What the story does is dangle the idea of Mpreg over your head for a little bit, with House suggesting it a little frequently. And before you ask, because I made it pretty far in the story, no, there isn't any Mpreg. When Koichi tells him all of this is impossible and insane, instead of talking, House bends him and grapes him. But oh wait, almost after an entire chapter worth of that shit, after throwing every trope they could at you in like 3 chapters, House's character realizes, shit, I didn't consider your feelings. All right, after you penetrated him, literally, really? Leaning into the no consent trope and trying to back out after the deed is halfway done is kind of fucking crazy and doesn't make the character look redeemable in any way, shape, or form. BTW. However, what I think should be a thing to improve the writing is adding an angry beast titan. Everybody would be fucking dead. After Kaus realizes, hey, this random person I just warped might not be interested, he offers him an agreement that after he stays for 1 month, if you are not interested, I'll send you back home, but I'm gonna try and make you mine. Imagine a stranger comes up to you with a knife and told you to, hey, give me your money, decides to give it back, I'm just gonna politely ask for your SSN. That sounds fucking nuts. That is how fucking nuts this plot device sounds. And it only goes down from here, folks. Both characters explain to each other that they're in a tight position, but Koichi concedes. Everything has to go the Semi's way, or as I want to call it, Semi's plot armor. Koichi shares his life about basketball. Kaus takes this as an opportunity to make it romantic. The following panel is a complete nonsensical jump, and we're flashed with 2 random people fucking.
What is it finna play? Wow!
In their world, public display of sexual relation is completely normal. Everywhere. Koichi calls the country wild. I would in fact call them sexual offenders. Kaus forces that idea to Koichi, which he isn't interested in, but does anyways. Aside from that, one thing I must say the series has a knack for is world building as it goes. They have species, dwarves, elves, furries, and they try to kind of make sense of them. Even a reproduction system. They even have a decent magic system. A whole political world with conflict. The series does attempt to tackle it. It's not good, but there's an attempt there. But it's also excruciatingly longly explained. Kaos keeps pushing the idea of birthing children, but he does understand jokingly that that's not possible. By episode 6, it's a bit unclear to me. This shift in Koichi's character just lets Kaos do whatever he wants to him. He just doesn't want to be watched. And one of my biggest complaints in the series is that any semblance of a personality is completely washed and becomes just an obedient in love with Kaos so soon without any reason. Following this, a banquet happens and Koichi is dressed particularly down, but we meet another character, Medina. I think one of the only female characters that appears in the story that they purposely lean into making her disliked, another very popular trope. And she throws in his face that she would have been standing by Kaos if it weren't for the prophecy. But following this, Kaos notices Koichi acting strange and Koichi trying to push that idea of those two being together, and Kaos not taking that as a sign as that maybe, hey, this person I just randomly teleported doesn't want this life, and just drags him out and makes out in front of her. But she actually doesn't care. She just wanted to add excitement to the relationship because she heard news from her relatives that Kaos was having a hard time. So everybody just knew Koichi's not fucking interested and being forced into this, and they're all just like, oh, we're gonna send people to make it worse for you. I'm not gonna single her out because every character in the story just has some kind of agenda against Koichi, and I don't know, she's the least big offender. By chapter 9, Kaos, not even a week into knowing him, has declared he has just completely fallen in love with Koichi and his vast knowledge of an unknown world. And when Kaos asks if he's still scared of him, something I wouldn't hope to ask anybody I'm interested in, we cut to Koichi asking him to stick the whole thing in. Oh, there goes my eyes. Accidentally dropped in hydrofluoric acid. Oh my god. What? After this chapter, she's pretty much in the background and not a hateable character. Just a quick feather of a problem, and they just don't know what to do with her. The intention was just baiting you in for a very typical trope, but after that, our first real conflict happens. Koichi passes out because of a subsequent white and sweet juice, fruit magic juice, moon magic he drank at the banquet, which is honestly so fucking random because I don't remember ever seeing it in the series when I was reading it. So it's supposed to be poisonous to smaller people. In order to neutralize this, they would need a YAYA to be ingested, and it's found in the beast country, aka a landscape a furry would probably dream to live in. After excruciatingly long explanations, Kaos is going to set out, but Koichi wants to come with him and feels guilty. This is the only time I think his personality kind of made sense because his backstory that has been shown lately does ramp up, and not only did his mom die, his father died as well.
Yeah. Double homicide.
And he believes he's solely tied to it, so he doesn't want anything to happen to Kaos because of him. They travel to the country, and it seems the poison is taking its effect. Now, if you thought this story was about to get any kind of normal, the poison doesn't just hurt him, it in fact gives him aphrodisiac effects, and this is the first time I ever learned that fucking phrase. I'm sure you're wondering what it is. It's something that would in fact make him hornier than normal. And what does Kaos do? Surely not have any character development. He just takes advantage of that. Semi's plot armor. They wanted some of Jinx's nachos. Sex scene, don't care, let's move forward. Koichi has to regard how he's so huge, and so many things are happening because of him, and it's unclear in his dialogue whether it's guilt or falling in love. However, the entire story to me is built off of his guilt, but hold on, I'll get into that in a second. We get transported to them going into town, and they look for the YAYA. We get an explanation of how both the fruits are opposites, sun and moon, metaphor, blah, 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 blah. Like I said earlier, they give an explanation and try to connect everything. It's just excruciatingly long, and I just couldn't give less of a fuck. This beast selling the fruit system is impossible for them to get, but two beasts appear inquiring them about the fruit they've been looking for, and Kaos is asked if Koichi is his child. Still feeding into the narrative, I see. Kaos is asked about why he's looking for the fruit, and he tells them that his client would be willing to pay as much as possible to get the fruit, but turns out they're being tricked. They're getting robbed by a tiger or a lion. The furry send out Paulo, but Kaos tells Koichi to stay back and set out to seal the deal. But before we even have 5 panels of separation, Koichi jacks off to him. Not necessarily necessary, but I understand. If there is something sexual happening every 2 chapters,
I meant to say if there isn't,
this series would cease to exist. Paulo breaks in and steals their shit, but Koichi fights back. I have to give the artist props. These action sequences in the series are actually fucking solid. They don't last very long, but hey, they're impressive. When Kaos wants to complete the trade, the tiger calls him an idiot. He reveals he tricked him and that they'll take their wealth and the kid. And a whole big fight breaks up, and like in this moment, they didn't have a fight sequence for those characters, but they just had to have this scene for Koichi. When Koichi asks about Kaos, it's revealed that he could have possibly been beaten up by now. We obviously know that's not fucking true. On cue, after 2 chapters, we've run into a problem. Koichi and Kaos aren't near each other. How can we insert some kind of sex scene? Flashbacks. Nah, done it too many times. Teleport them. We already did that. Make the first. Yes! The fruit takes effect and isn't hurting him, but making him more horny. Now, I don't know why the following panel we get is of his family and mom dying. Insane whiplash, if you ask me. Paulo begins to take advantage of him after smelling he's in heat. And you know what's crazy? Paulo becomes a more attached character after this, which is nuts to me, but an entire grape scene happens and Kaus appears throwing him out of the wall. They embrace and we're reminded of a concept of plot armor. Nothing bad happens to a fucking titan. Also, I really wanted to walk this back quickly, like it's kind of fucking insane. You just summoned some random ass person out of nowhere. You didn't even know what they looked like, didn't even know what they were really gonna be. What if you got a fucking squirrel? What if you summoned a squirrel? That'd be weird. That'd be very weird. Oh wait, never mind, let me look at the world. Oh shit. House is judging him, but I find that very ironic considering he pretty much did the same thing to Koichi and threatens to kill him. But Koichi stops him for the sake of guilt of everything happening because of him. But as this whole saga gets increasingly frustrating, House asks Paulo where the fruit is. Paulo tells them exactly behind him where the fucking forest is, and literally in front of them, and House makes him retrieve it. All of that shit just for a problem to be solved in less than 30 panels. Are you fucking kidding me? Are you serious? But of course, on cue, Kaus has to take advantage of the fruit one last time. Where was the consideration he had earlier, you may ask? I don't know. I think it got lost in the explanation of the damn rise of fruit. They get the fruit and we wrap the problem up and they head home. The writing is poor. If they really wanted to shake some shit up, they would have dropped the Beast Titan. Boom, everybody's fucking dead. Story done, cause I'm over it. Koichi tells Klaus his whole family is dead because of him, to which he says, damn, that's crazy. You're gonna love me though. Paulo appears and everybody's just completely okay with him being there. Even Koichi, after, you know, he just him. But then again, Stockholm Syndrome, I forgot what I was reading. And they leave Paulo and Martu, the other side characters that become a duo that's incredibly annoying. Sex scene, 2/4 of a chapter, but Koichi's having doubts about staying there, missing his life, but is also gaining a fixation for Kaus, but can't help but wonder how his family and friends are because he would be considered missing to them. By chapter 29, we meet another character on a farm and animals that I would describe as a knockoff Appa. Kaus and this man go way back, and Koichi sees this and starts to miss his old life. We get more of an understanding of the people. The story is pushing a narrative that Kaus is just so kind and sweet, and everyone loves him, but never mind the fact he just takes people and gets what he wants. Never mind the fact he's just fucking huge and intimidates people and just fucking them. Semi's plot armor. The point of that scene is to say Koichi's existence is important. Following this, Kaus is pushing the idea of being a good king, and Koichi communicates he's not sure he wants this life, and before he can even finish, Koichi just interrupts him and just decides to fuck him. Every single chance of convincing and a logical conversation being written in, the character is made to just fuck him, and really reduces the power of the sex scenes. It's literally by this point, I feel like I just went basically numb to it happening because it's just thrown around so pointlessly. Oh, you want to leave? Boom. Oh, you're upset? Boom. Any other feeling Koichi's written to have aside from being obedient is met with a sex scene. And it doesn't help the fact Kaus follows it up with wanting to meet his friends in his life, when in fact he couldn't ever, but we're getting there. Whiplash, we get backstory, her parents are dead, and I guess the story is just making a point that Koichi is considerably lonely. Moments of closeness, okay. Proprietary is important with them, it's just some metaphor for sex or whatever. Skipping ahead, we're now getting to the only important part of the story for me. Koichi wants to talk about leaving, the possibility of it being over, but Kaus wants to tell him about summoning techniques. It's one of Kaus's last tricks to, I guess you could say, hold some information back and manipulate him a little. If he sends him back, he can't come back because it's a very powerful technique. The furry duos are running to stop whatever is about to happen when they realize he's about to send him back. Koichi asks what would happen if he were to stay there and take the contract. He would have essentially, or would have never been born in his world. But Koichi thinks his mom wouldn't have had a reason to die, but she would in fact still be dead. Illogically, Koichi's response to all of this is that he wants to be transported back to his world, which makes absolutely no sense to me. His character has nothing and won't regardless, so what is making him want to jump back? Like, I don't get it. I mean, maybe that's how the writing wanted, I don't fucking know, man. But I mean, hey, the story could be over sooner, but alas, this has 140 something chapters as far as I know, and we're on chapter 36. Kaus tells Koichi they're gonna prepare to send him back home, and as he's mopey, Kaus takes it as a sign to fuck him. And if you haven't noticed or cared, Koichi asks him why he hasn't came into him. Aside from the fact that he could barely get inside him, time. If he does that, he would be permanently linked to the world, so he was saving that for after he signs the contract. The following chapter, we see probably one of the best looking panels I've seen in the entire series. The whole budget of that volume or season, whatever it was, went to that moment. Koichi hugs Kaos, telling him to keep looking for his bride, and he wants everyone to be fucking happy. I'm feeling fucking happy because maybe this is the fucking end and maybe I'm just an idiot. Obviously, it's not fucking ending anytime soon. And the duo comes back out of nowhere, reaching out to him that if he goes back to his old world, Kaos would in fact die. Apparently, because he was cut off by the cycle, using his magic too much would in fact kill him. And they both convince him to stay and take him back to him. The only time we've ever seen these two characters ever be fucking useful is to drag him back to this stupid shit. So now he can't go back because he has to stay because Kaos could die. Honestly, he was never gonna see him again. Logically, what does that fucking have to do with it? As he goes back to him, we get a whole barrage of panels to convince him to stay, which was very oddly used. I feel like if you're gonna use a callback moment to make it emotional, use it to convince a character, it should have been when he was leaving, not making his way back. That defeats the entire fucking purpose. But it just makes Kaos look more like a manipulative dick than the lovable character they want. I feel like I'll break you. Medina, why would you say that in front of people? You know what's crazy? I'm realizing he just said he targeted someone lonely and depressed so that way they wouldn't reject him. Oh, fuck. Oh, fuck. Oh. Koichi comes back, landing on his... Where did his pants go? I don't know. What happened to Hi Hello? I'm telling you, like every 2 chapters, it doesn't have to logically make sense. We didn't even see him take his pants off. They just magically warped and makes him come inside of him and proclaims his love for him. But if you think it couldn't get any more deranged, Callus notices someone is lurking behind him, and that is in fact his mother's soul. Was she there the whole time watching? Ew! Kao summons her out, and she's just butt-ass naked telling Koichi to be with him. And as he decides to stay, we see all the characters slowly begin to forget him in his world. And as things end on a quote-unquote peaceful note on chapter 42, we get another set of villains seeing what's going on, planning to make a move while they're f***ing. And you know what? Hell yeah, good for them. I don't even know what's going on over there. That's where I'm wrapping it up chapter by chapter. I think it's a good stopping point. And it only gets more fucking ridiculous anyways. Some of the problems include wanting to figure out how to fit his entire cock into him. They meet an entire elf to fix their problem and makes them fuck in front of them while he jacks off just to tell them, well, I'm not sure how to fix it. The royal family wants cows to actually mate with someone blood related, whatever the fuck that means. The same elf sticks a goo to fuck Koichi for some reason. Kaos has a dream about fucking the goo for some reason. There's a bridal quiz for some reason. Also very riveting. Also, there is an anime adaptation to this. I watched the first episode and I must say they tried to clean that shit up. They took out like half the crazy shit going on, but if you only watch solely the anime, you will only get like a quarter of the details. It tries to make it a little more appealing for people. Let's just say that. It was very rushed and I wouldn't recommend it. See, my issue with this series writing is that there was a competent story going for it. There was an attempt made, and obviously the gross tropes it leaned into. It fell flat, and a lot of it really wasn't necessary. Again, it had an essence of world building, it had a hierarchy, it had a magic system. It tried to make sense of the Isekai process. There was an actual part of the story trying to be fleshed out, a whole world between species, albeit some of the problems were easily solvable, because what the fuck do you mean? Oh, this fruit isn't just killing you, it's making you horny. What do you mean the only way to save the Titan race you have to marry your fucking cousin? It leans into all these horrible tropes and has an easy solution for an overextending problem. Literally, I read in and they've been stuck dealing with an egg for like 50, 60 chapters. Then it showers you with every other fucking character wanting to fuck Koichi, this high school student that they subsequently feel the need to reference his young features so commonly throughout the series, even though he's 19. He's small like a child, but he's definitely an adult. I don't know why. What's that supposed to mean? But again, why couldn't he be in college? Why high school? Why are you trying to go for a barely legal image and then to have the whole catch revolve around them being massively different in size? I'm weirded out. There's a whole power dynamic situation going on. I don't like the relationship. I don't like how Koichi became so doughy-eyed and infatuated with Kao so early and easy and just obedient. There was some power and resistance to him, and then it zapped all out. It's so annoying when they make an ook just useless and fucking annoying if they have a personality. There was no point of where it made sense, where it clicked that felt something for him. There was just guilt. The whole relationship is solely built on guilt tripping and manipulation, if you ask me. Half of the problems going on is tied to Koichi's family's death, and when he wants to pull back because he's hurting people, the solution is, oh, let's shove Kao's dick inside him. Any different emotion the character possesses is just met with a sex scene from anybody and everybody. Kao's had no development, just a bag of rocks floating around in his head if you open it up. The character lets a whole elf sit there and get off to them, but then proceeds to let a goo literally Koichi, but now all of a sudden he wants to leave a cum scent on him because he wants to be possessive. Now he wants him to be. It's inconsistent. It's inconsistent. Why is he possessive after all that? And maybe at first no one knew what to do with the side characters because why are you just throwing this fox, that the main character, with this character that's just there? House wanted to rip his head off, but Koichi's just completely okay with him being there. What? They essentially proved to be useless. Why are you making a malicious character and then throwing them in their circle and then just going along with it with no real pushback? Mind you, he's supposed to have a romance with the doctor, but all he's thinking about is Koichi. I wish maybe there was more action sequences sooner. It appears later on in like the 130 chapters, after literally all the chaotic shit. They even have Koichi shooting magic beams. Everyone annoyed the Flying Academy. Art style amazing. It had some points. I gagged sometimes from how gorgeous it was. It peaked with the action sequences. Yes, I understand it's a sex-focused story as well, but it tries so hard to have an actual plot, it just comes off tragic. Boy Meets Girl, that manhwa, for example, had absolutely nothing going for it, and it was supposed to have a quick ending, but all of a sudden, there was an attempt to give an actual story and a walk back, trying to literally use a mental disorder to make a character likable and forgivable. Don't make your character unredeemable levels of creepy if you plan to make them likable to an audience later on. But all in all, it's a chop. I'm out.